Hello everyone. In today's topic, we are going to discuss about the interpretation of ECG. That's the part 2. In part 1, we already discussed about the how an ECG works, what is the standard 12-lead ECG and all. So in this part 2, we are going to discuss about the 6 easy steps to interpret the ECG. So ECG paper. So ECG paper is divided into large square with 5 mm wide, and these large square are further subdivided into small square of 1 mm width. So this is the ECG paper. These dark lines are the large square and these very light lines are the small squares. So these big large squares, no, it has 5 small square, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 small squares in the lengthwise and the breadthwise. So both compromises. So totally 25 small boxes are there. So this is a large square and one small square, that is 1 mm width. This is so 5 small square, no. So it is 5 mm width and this is 1 mm width, and the time taken for one small square is 0.04 second, and the time taken for 5 mm is 0.2 seconds. So into 5, okay. So it is 0.2 seconds. So the x-axis is the time and the y-axis is the voltage. So the ECG machine mostly runs at 25 mm per second. So this is a standard speed of the ECG machine, which is mostly common 25 mm per second. So there are 5 small squares in one large square, as we already seen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 small squares there. One small square it takes about 0.04 seconds, and one large square it takes about 0.2 seconds. Okay. So 5 large square is 1 second. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these 5 large square, this is the time taken for 1 second. If one large square it takes about 0.2 seconds, so for 1 second is what you have to do into 5. If you are putting that, then 1 will come. So for 1 second it takes about 5 large squares. So 6 seconds, how many large square it will take? So 5 into 6, that is 30 large squares. So for 1 minute, so 60 seconds into 0. So this one 30 into 0, that is 300. So 1 large square is 0.2 second, 5 large square is 1 second, 30 large square is 6 seconds, and 300 large square is 1 minute. So it is very easy, but remember only one thing, 1 mm and 0.4 seconds. Then you can easily multiply and then you can study all the rest of the values. Okay. So small square equals 1 minute. So we have already seen that in 1 minute 300 large square is there. So for 60 seconds, that for 1 minute, how many small squares will be there? So this one into 5, because in one large square, how many small squares are there? 5 small squares are there. So 300 into 5, 5 3s are 15. So totally 1500 small squares are there. Okay, in 1 minute, 1500 small squares are there. This is the value. Here this is 300 large square is 1 minute. Okay, so how we can calculate with the number of R waves in the 300 large square, we can calculate the heart rates per minute. Okay, I'll teach you in the next slides and all. So we can also count the number of small squares in between the two R waves and calculate the heart rate per minute. So as you can see that you can calculate the number of small squares in between, okay, between two R waves. So as you know that in one big square, how many small squares are there? 5 small squares are there. So 5, 10, 15 small squares. Then this remaining you can count easily. So with that number, you have to divide it by 1500. So easily you will get the heart rate beats per minute. In most of the ECG paper, the heart rate is given. In that case, if it is not given in that case, you can use these methods. But usually the heart rate slows during the expiration and speeds during the inspiration. So expiration, when we are breathing out carbon dioxide, that time the heart rate slows, and when we are taking in oxygen, that time the inspiration, it speeds up the heart rate. Okay, in this time we can calculate using the RR interval technique. Okay, what is that RR technique? We'll see. So count 30 large square in 6 second strip. So in an ECG paper, no, there is a 6 second strip. So it is like for 1 second from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So totally like this, a line will be given in the ECG paper. So it is like a 6 second that their marking will be there. So from there, so it takes around 30 large square. I'll show you a picture in that. So as you can see here, markings are given. So like this it will be given. So here it takes about 1, 2 second, 3 second, 4 second, 5 second, 6 seconds. So here for your understanding it is being given. Otherwise one will be here and the other will be in the 6 second. Okay, that is a 6 second strip. So it will be very useful to calculate the heart rate. So 30 large square, that compromises the 6 second strip. So as you know that in 1 second 5 large square are there. For 6 seconds 30 large squares are there. So count the number of R waves in the 30 large squares. So you can see here. So in this both 30 large squares are there. So here you can count the number of R waves: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So totally 7 R waves are there in 30 large squares. So what you can do is for 6 seconds it is taking 7 R waves, means then for 60 seconds what you can do is multiply by 10. So then you will get 70. So this is the heart rate per minute. Okay, beats per minute. So this is one of a method you can follow when the rhythm is regular. That time this method can be followed. Okay, I'll detailedly explain you in the upcoming things. So P wave, that is the atrial contraction or atrial depolarization. Okay, when the heart is contracting, that point is called as the P wave, the atrial contraction. Okay, as you can see, it is the first positive deflection. You can see the time taken for this is 0.1 second. So for P wave is 0.8 to 0.1 second. Okay, the next is PQ. It is the time taken for the impulse to move from the SA node to the AV node. We all know that the SA node is the pacemaker of the heart, and it is from there only all the impulses are being sent to the rest of the heart. Okay, so to the AV node, next it is being sent to the AV node. So that time it is the PQ. Okay, this is the time taken from the PQ. So it is QRS, that is ventricular repolarization. When the ventricles are being contracted, that is the ventricular repolarization, the QRS. And T wave is the ventricular repolarization. The heart is relaxing again. The ventricle starts relaxing again. That is the ventricular repolarization. So P wave is the first positive deflection and Q wave is the first negative deflection. Negative means it will come from this midline, no? It will come down. That is the negative. So positive means it will come up. Okay. So as you already know that in a cardiac cycle it takes about 0.8 seconds for a complete heart to pump. It takes about 0.8 seconds. If you haven't seen my video, you can go to the previous video and see about the cardiac cycle. So it will be very helpful for you to understand about this. Okay. So in this you can see that the P wave it takes about 0.8 to 0.1 second, and the PR interval it is from the P till the starting point of Q. Okay. So that is the P, the starting point of P until the starting point of Q. This is the PR interval. It takes about 0.12 to 0.20 seconds. Okay. Then the QRS complex, it takes about this QRS. It takes about 0.06 to 0.12 seconds. On the QT interval, it is from the starting of the Q till the ending of the T. It takes about 0.4 seconds. If you add everything, 0.1, 0.2, 0.1, 0.4, everything, it will combine and come to 0.8. So that is the complete cardiac cycle. So you have to know about the value of the P wave and the PR interval, the QRS complex and the QT. Okay. So this is very, very important one. If you remember this, then only it will be very helpful for you to interpret an ECG. Okay. So for your understanding, I have given this in a bigger diagram. So this is in seconds, P wave, QRS and the T wave. Okay. So here, as we already saw that the one small box, it is 1 mm distance, and 5 small box, it joins together to form one big box. Okay. So this is 0.04 second and the big square is taking 0.2 second. Okay. So there are 6 steps. These are the 6 steps to interpret an ECG. First one is examine the P wave. Then measure the PR interval. Then measure the QRS complex. Then identify the rhythm. Evaluate the heart rate and interpret the ECG. So these are the first 6 points where it will be very helpful for you to understand how to interpret an ECG. So first is the examine the P wave. So P wave, the normal P wave will be present and it will be upright. As you can see here, it is present and it is upright. It is not downward. So it is present and upright. So in some cases, it will be peaked. Okay. Or it will be inverted downward. So these are some of the abnormal P waves. Okay. But normally it should be present and it should be upright. Identify the P wave from every QRS and P wave must be upright and uniform. So before every QRS complex, a P wave should be present. Okay. If the P wave is absent or inverted, it indicates a form of dysarrhythmia. So dysarrhythmia means some rhythm problem is there and because of that the P wave is inverted or absent. Okay. So generally the impulse originates from the SA node. But if it's originating from the AV node, the bundle of His is called as junctional rhythm. Okay. So we already saw that the impulse originates from the SA node. But if the impulse is not originating from the SA node and if the starting point itself it is from the AV node or the bundle of His, then that is called as the junctional rhythm. In these cases, the P wave will be not normal. This junctional rhythm happens when there is a problem in the SA node, hyperkalemia, in so many disease conditions, this P wave will be peaked or inverted or absent. Okay. So next is measure the PR interval. As we already see that P starts from the starting point is from here and the R is the starting point of this is the PR interval. Okay. So the PR interval must be measured from the beginning of the P wave to the beginning of the QRS complex. To measure it, count the small boxes and multiply by 0.04 second. As we know that one small box it is 0.04 second. So how many small boxes are coming if you are multiplying? Then we'll get the value of the PR interval. And the normal range is 0.12 to 0.20 seconds. Okay. So if it is more than 0.20 second, it indicates dysarrhythmia such as heart blocks. Okay. The heart is being blocked or any dysarrhythmia is there, then the PR interval will be more. Okay. It indicates the slowing of conduction between the atria and the ventricles. Okay. If it is less than 0.12 seconds, it indicates Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, enhanced AV node conduction and junctional arrhythmias. So there are some disease conditions where the 0.12 second it will be less. So there are some disease conditions where the 0.2 seconds will be more. Okay. But you have to understand only one thing. The PR interval problem occurs only when the P wave, that is the atrial contraction and the atrial relaxation, that happens, no, that during that process only this PR interval is varying. Okay, so any alteration in this it indicates that the problem is there in the atrium. Okay, that is the main thing. Okay, we have to understand. And third one is measure the QRS complex. So here the QRS. Okay, so here also we have to count the number of boxes, small boxes, and multiply it by 0.04. Okay, so anything that you have to do with the small boxes, multiply by 0.04. Anything big boxes, 0.2. Okay, so measure the number of boxes in the QRS complex. The normal range is 0.6 to 0.12 seconds. Okay, so because the second number doesn't have any more value, if it is above 5 we will add one number. It's 0.2, we will, here it's only 2, so it is 0.12 seconds, you can say. Okay, so the QRS interval duration is measured by counting the small squares and multiplying it by 0.04. If it is more than 0.12 seconds, it means premature ventricular contraction. So remember one thing in this, that is the QRS. It is because of the ventricular repolarization. That means the ventricular depolarization. It means the ventricle contraction is there. So if it is more, then the contraction is not taking place very rapidly, and some problem is there in the ventricles. Okay, so that in that case it is premature ventricular contraction. It means the extra heartbeats that begin in one of the hearts of the lower ventricle. So the heart is going, it is a very fast, extra beats will be provided, and it will be more, intensity will be more. So what happens, this 0.12 seconds will be more. Okay, so this QRS interval will be prolonged. Okay, so the number of small boxes, it will be more comparatively to the normal, it will be more. Okay, so this is about the QRS complex. And the fourth one is identify the rhythm. So there are only two chances. The rhythm can be regular or the rhythm can be irregular. Okay, so to find this, there's a simple easy step. So measure the distance between the R waves. Okay, so the R waves are there, you can measure the distance. Okay, so how you can do this is by practice. You can, just by looking, you can say the rhythm is regular or irregular. But sometimes what happens, but through the beginners, you can do it with a paper and a pen. Okay, take a white paper and keep it below this. Okay, that is the second lead. You have to keep it in the second lead. It will be in the ECG paper, it will be the last row. Okay, that is the rhythm strip. We called it as the lead 2 as the rhythm strip. Okay, so you can keep a white paper here and you can plot the one of the marking in here and the other marking here. Okay, in that paper you mark this both the R waves. Okay, then take that paper and keep it here, fit it and see if it is fitting in a correct interval. Then fit it and see if it is in a correct interval, then the rhythm is regular. If not, then the rhythm is irregular. It's a very simple method. Okay, so then fourth point is you have to identify the rhythm. Okay, then the fifth point is evaluate the heart rate. Okay, the first one, as we saw that the first one is the examine the P wave, then comes the PR interval, then is the QRS complex, then is the rhythm, then is the heart rate. Okay, so this heart rate, there are three methods are there, A, B and C. Okay, three methods are there. So already we have discussed this, so I'm making it one more time, I'm making it clear. Count the number of R waves in a 6-second strip. Okay, you can count the number of R waves, and already I told this, I showed this picture. Okay, 6-second strip you can go and you can count the number of R waves and multiply it by 10. Okay, why? Because 60 seconds means 1 minute. So 6 seconds, so you're counting it for 60 seconds. So multiply by 10 you will get the heart rate. Okay, you can perform this only when the heart rates are regular. Okay, and one more thing, you can also perform, but you have to know that the 6-second strip, in some papers the 6-second strip won't be mentioned. That time it is very difficult for you to count the 6-second strip and then calculate the heart rate. So that in that case you can't perform this method. Okay, then if the rhythm is regular, there is one more method is there. Count the number of large square between the two R waves and divide by 300 by that number. Here you see two R waves are there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Count the number of R waves and divide it by 5. Okay. So here why we are dividing by 300? It's the total number of large square for 1 minute. Okay. So in the large square for 1 minute, 300 large squares. So if there are 5 boxes in one like in this between two R waves, then what we can do, we can divide and we can calculate the heart rate. Okay, this is one more method. And the last final method is count the number of small boxes. Okay, each and every box. So easy way is one box, 5 small squares. So 5, 10, 15. Okay, so here 15 and here few are there, here also few are there. So you can count the how many number of R waves and divide it by 1500. Why we are dividing by 1500? Because small squares 30, if there are 300 large square for 1 minute, 1500 large square for 1 minute. Okay, so if you remember this value, then it will be easy for you to calculate the heart rate. Okay, and last and final thing is interpretation of ECG. So with these values, with all the values we have, the P wave, the PR interval, the Q wave, the QRS complex, the rhythm, the heart rate, then you can easily calculate the interpretation of ECG. You can calculate easily. So in the next video, we will see each and every the system wise, like the disease condition wise, we'll see, so that what value is different means what disease condition it is, we can easily interpret. So it can be normal sinus rhythm, sinus bradycardia, sinus tachycardia, sinus arrhythmia, premature atrial contraction, atrial tachycardia, supraventricular tachycardia, first degree, second degree, third degree heart block, atrial fibrillation, ventricular fibrillation, premature ventricular contraction, ventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation, and asystole. So many are there. I've just mentioned only this much I have mentioned. So by this you can easily identify and interpret what happened, what is wrong with the heart. Okay, which disease condition is being affected. So this is just for your information. It's a small tabular column. If there is one large square, what is the time taken? 0.2 seconds. So the heart rate is 300. So if there are two large square, the time is 0.4. Okay, so the heart rate is 150. So 3 means 0.6, heart rate is 100. 4 means 0.8, heart rate is 75. 5 means 1 second. Okay, heart rate is 60. So this can be calculated how means. So we know that in one large square, that is 300, this is there, 300, 1 minute, 300 large squares join together to form the 1 minute. Okay, so for heart rate is, if one large square is there, 300 divided by 1, it means 300. So 300 divided by 2, the heart rate is 150. 300 divided by 3 is 100. 300 divided by 4 75. 300 divided by 5 is 60. Okay, so this is just a tabular column for you to understand how to calculate with the number of large square, how to calculate the heart rate. Okay, so this is all about the interpretation of ECG by 6 methods or 6 steps. Okay, so in further topic we will discuss about how to like with each disease condition, how the value changes and what are the process. We'll detailedly see about that in the next video. Thank you so much.